was not the thrilling Champions League contest that we thought it might be before the game. Instead, it was an absolute masterclass from Manchester City. There was simply nothing that Carlo Ancelotti could concoct from the sideline to bring his team into it. And although we've seen Real Madrid rise from the dead on so many Champions League nights in the past, it never looked likely this evening, never at all, really. And Richard Dunn, you said before kick-off that you had a feeling in your waters about City this evening, that you fancied them by a couple of goals if they got it right. If anything, you underestimated that tally. They were just merciless this evening, weren't they?
Yeah, I should have been braver in my prediction. It was an outstanding performance by an exceptional team. For the last, certainly since the World Cup, their form has been outstanding. They've rotated the squad. The players that they're bringing in, the players that they brought on tonight, they make a difference. They work so hard, which is the key to being successful. When they're that good, but they've got that work rate and they all in it together, it's just an unbelievable performance. But you can see it coming over the last couple of months. They're just getting better and better and better. And like I suppose all good teams, it's the right stage of the season to be hitting top form. Brian said before he'd rotated, there's not many players who've played over 25 league games, so everyone's fresh. There's no injuries in the squad. He's just got everything spot on this season, and they look like a side that I can't see any way that Inter Milan can stop them in the final. And yeah, I think they'll go on and do the treble. But tonight's performance was just, for me, I think it's only a matter of time before City become the dominant side in Europe, and I think tonight's performance is sort of the first tick on that step towards doing it. I think winning the competition now should be a formality for them, given the performance.
It's incredible to say, but like Brian, after that performance this evening, it's hard not to think that that was frightening for their rivals.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was all the things Richard said. They were magnificent tonight, sublime at the back, magnificent at the middle of the pitch, devastating in attack, apart from the fact that Haaland missed a few chances and Courtois kept the score down. They were just brilliant. That midfield dominance with Stones going in there beside Rodri, Gundogan, De Bruyne, Grealish on the flanks, left flank, Silva on the other flank. They were just brilliant, so far ahead. It wasn't even sad to see the demise of the great Real Madrid team tonight. It was beautiful to see the emergence of Manchester City to look so wonderful as they did tonight. Now, they still have to do it in the final. Still have to go and win the final, but that was a brilliant performance tonight, all around the pitch. It was just so comfortable. Every single player, we were talking about picking out players of the match, and you say, well, Silva, because he scored a couple of goals. But right, there wasn't one player who you could say was average tonight. They were just totally on their game.
I'm interested to hear you say that. We're going to talk about it after the break, because you talk about it being beautiful and wonderful, and certainly was in football terms. There's a lot of people who say there's something ominous and concerning for football in general about Manchester City. 5 Premier League titles in 6 years if they do the business there. Richard saying he thinks they could dominate Europe. There's other off-the-field things to talk about as well, with financial issues and charges that are against them. But on the field, as the lads said, it was just a masterclass. It was stunning, and there's lots to unpack to make it a real hammering in the end. And just to wrap up that point, we're going to focus on all the brilliance on the field from Manchester City. Just to pick up that point, Brian, that do you have to sort of keep it in mind that there was a big banner there in the stadium, Sheikh Mansour, Manchester City thanks you for 10 great years, etc. It is a project of a state to go and dominate football, to reflect glory on Abu Dhabi, and that there is 115 charges of financial misdemeanours up against City from the Premier League as well. So all this is part of the story, as well as the wonderful football we saw this evening.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I'm praising them for the football. I mean, I'm not praising them because of the regime that runs the club by any means. And these charges are there, they're outstanding. They got through the ones before with UEFA. Whether they're ever going to come back or not, I don't know. But they should live within the rules of what the rules are for the competition. And if they're breaking the rules, they should be punished. But it seems to be very hard to establish what the actual facts are on the cases involved. And it remains to be seen whenever those... whenever the whole case is dealt with again, what the outcome is. But as Richard said, he thinks that they're on the edge of dominating European football. I don't know if that's the case. I'd be surprised if Real Madrid fall back too far. They're not challenging for the Champions League again another year or two's time. That's generally the way it is with them. Barcelona are falling back a long way. Juventus are way behind. The English teams in particular have so much investment in. Well, now Newcastle are in the picture. Chelsea, obviously, there's huge money been invested in Chelsea, not very wisely so far. But you know, going on the football tonight was a totally brilliant performance. And you have to admire what they've done. They didn't make too many mistakes in recruitment in recent years. They made mistakes in the past. You've seen them spend a lot of money on centre-backs and not working out. But their latest recruitment has been excellent, I would say. But there's something about you buy players like Calvin Phillips and don't use them at all and pay huge amount of money for them, and they seem to be able to stockpile players at a rate that other clubs can't compete them. Everybody else seems to be in a position where they're wondering about what they can spend on a player or two, or can they go to 100 million like Liverpool? It seems they decided not to go for Bellingham on the basis that he's too expensive. Manchester City are interested in him. Manchester United seem to be on a little bit undecided about how far they can go. Arsenal are saying. Spurs, who were considered one of the wealthier clubs, are not now. So. But they don't seem to have any limits to where they can go, where that spending ends. So you have to look at that in the overall picture as well. But if we're here to discuss the performance of a team against one of the greatest teams, one of the greatest clubs pedigree-wise, 14 Champions League, they destroyed them tonight with the quality of the players they have, structure, management, preparation. Everything. They were just so superior tonight. It was amazing.
And just your take on that, Richard. We're going to look at it now, but I mean, with the advantages that they have accrued, they have used them well. They've made good decisions.
Yeah, I don't think you look at the squad tonight. Maybe Grealish is the only one that other teams couldn't compete with, because he was £100 million signing, and he probably wasn't worth £100 million at the time. But Man City have turned him now into a player probably worth more. But you go through the rest of the squad, and there's nobody else that Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea couldn't afford. But Man City have got a plan in how they recruit people, how they do it, and what type of player they want for each position. And over the period of a couple of years, they've accumulated a squad which is very well balanced.
It's the depth of the squad, and as Brian said, they can make a mistake with it, Calvin Phillips or where other clubs.
Yeah, but even with Calvin Phillips, it's done on purpose because they need a certain quota of English players. So he's probably an English player that can get in of a decent quality, not on £200,000 a week or whatever it is. So the whole recruitment, they don't make many mistakes. Like Brian says, they did get it wrong at the start, maybe with a couple of players here and there. But now, over the last 3 or 4 years, every single player who's come in, even like you look at Alvarez, he was 15, 16 million. So well affordable for the whole of the Premier League, most of Europe. But City was the ones that went out and got him. And I think the biggest draw to Man City is Pep Guardiola. Right. All the players want to play for him. And how he's evolved the team, even over the course of this season, has been incredible. And I think what's helped him as well is the signing of Haaland. Haaland is a player who can play in one position and one style. So he restricts how much he can change the attacking force of Man City.
Let's look at the man. It wasn't Haaland who helped them make the breakthrough this evening. It was Bernardo Silva. And he's been Pep's sort of go-to man for big Champions League nights, hasn't he? Because Mahrez has done the business for them in the league. But Bernardo Silva is the trusted man in these nights.
He is, and we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago in the last round about why, and it's because of his work rate and how hard he is and how much he moves around almost, and to drag players out of position. This time you see Camavinga getting lost, and Silva just realising where the opportunity's going to fall to, where the spaces are, where he's expected to be, and every time he's getting, his turning and twisting is so good, so exciting to watch. But 9 times out of 10 he keeps the ball. He's such a talented player, and whatever Mahrez gives in terms of the attacking threat, Silva's got it as well, but he's got that little bit of extra hard work within him.
And tonight, Tommy, he played out on the right hand side, not hugging the touchline by any means, but he eventually moved into the middle of the field in the second half, and he's just as effective. He can play any of the positions across the line. Seen him in the past playing as a false 9 before they got Haaland and Jesus was out injured. But look, his passing is brilliant, his control is excellent, he's hardy and tough, as we saw in that little instant out near the touchline where there was 3 players around him trying to take the ball off him. But the timing of his passes is just absolutely superb, and he's a brilliant all-round player. Look at this. we all had a little chuckle when we saw this bit in the second half, little flick. A great player, still only 28, plenty of years left in him yet, but very much a key player for the manager now.
Yeah, and also all the positions he plays. He's played left back this season, he's played centre midfield, he plays up front as a false 9, he can play right or left wing, so he's so versatile and so happy to go and do it for the team rather than thinking it's about him. He's just a complete squad player.
Indeed, and he got City rolling in that first half, deserved leads that they had. Another man who's delivered for them, Richard was talking about him coming in, and it was a bit like when they signed Grealish for 100 million from Villa, people were thinking, not sure about that, what's the story with that? But when you look at his performance over some of these big Champions League nights, he's been trusted by Pep, and he is delivering for them now at this level, Brian, isn't he?
He is, he's consistent, and he's not losing the ball. Initially in the first year, the complaint about him, Pep didn't trust him probably in a lot of the big games, was because he was loose in possession and it made the wrong choices at times, but he's improved. His work rate is as good as the rest of the players. He tortured Carvajal over the 2 games.
And that was one of those duels we talked about before the game.
Yeah, and he got the better of Carvajal in both legs. And I think there was 3 players yellow carded for fouling him tonight. There's Militao deep in his own half, Militao going in after him. But his all-round game is improved dramatically. There's another foul on him. And but I think tonight, Tommy, we could have picked almost any of the Manchester City players, bar Edison, who had made a couple of saves late on. They individually and collectively, they were magnificent tonight. Yeah, and almost the fact that the third goal came from an own goal, it made it a bit of a perfect performance, a little bit of a scuff on it. Like it deserved a better a third goal, really. I mean, it comes off Militao. There's a bit of a VAR check. But that was that really when that went in. Any chance, and you always thought Real might have a push in them, it was gone after this.
Yeah, there was a few opportunities for De Bruyne to put balls through, and he missed quite a few tonight. But that was a brilliant delivery in, and that was the defending of a team that was beaten by that stage. They'd nobody marking. They'd 1 player against 3, and Militao rushing back to his own goal, and it wasn't pretty from Real's point of view. But the delivery's good. Players making the runs that are expected of them, and they got that goal. They could have got another 4 or 5, but for Courtois. There is a celebration about Kanji, I think, as well. I think he seems to be a very popular player in the group. He's, him talking about the transfers earlier on, that was a steal. And he's turned out to be a really good buy, wasn't he? Yeah. Again, positionally able to play across the position. He played against them. He was superb when he played against City last year in the group stages. I think that made their mind up that he could be one that they could use. And look, coming back to that point again, when we look at the 4th goal, like, you'll talk about the strength and depth that they have, that they're able to build, and maybe that's why they've seen off Arsenal in the Premier League, because they simply can't match what City are able to do. I mean, Foden, who's homegrown player but massive talent, comes on and passes the ball through to Alvarez, who's a World Cup winning striker coming off the bench. Yeah, but Grealish has ousted Foden from that position. I mean, this time last year, Foden was key man, was always in the starting team. The position he picks up here, weight on the pass, beautiful timing of the run, excellent.
And he's an exceptional young player, Phil Foden, but his opportunities to play are limited. He played against Everton at the weekend and was very, very good himself, and Mahrez played in those wide positions. But lovely little ball in, and Alvarez he's been another one who's been excellent when he's played. He played against Everton the weekend and he doesn't get his game tonight.
Yeah.
He's really, really good player, Alvarez.
And as you said there a minute ago, Richard, Real were a bit of a rabble at that stage. How do you assess their night? Because we thought that we were going to get a cracking Champions League night coming into this, but, you know, OK, we talked about City, a masterclass from them, tearing them apart. But, I mean, they just looked shell-shocked. They looked punch-drunk through most of that game. Was that down to City or you know, are they some of those players over the top now?
There's certainly a few of the Real players, I think, who tonight will feel that maybe they've reached the end, and certainly at that level. There's still Kroos, Modric, Benzema, top class players. They just didn't have it tonight. They didn't have that extra step to keep up with City. The intensity that City played in the first 30 minutes just completely blew them away. And they ended up not being able to get on the ball, not being able to pick up second balls. And they looked like a team that was lost and was looking, can you help me out or can you help me out? But nobody could help anyone out. They were just smothered by the way that Man City played. And Brian said about Carvajal got destroyed tonight. I thought, like he said, he got destroyed in the two legs, and he's one of the best right backs that they've had.
Stalwart,
yeah. They're just being blown away tonight, and I think it shows that it's time for a rebuild again at Madrid, and no doubt they'll have the money to do it.
They'll be back.
They can do it. I mean,
sure.
they evolved from the Casemiro, Ramos, Ronaldo, that team, Bale.
Well,
They evolved from that to be the team they were the last couple of seasons.
Indeed.
And they'll do it again.
And talked that Bellingham may be coming in, I'm sure more to follow after that in the summer. Blown away, as Richard puts. Yeah, he greets all the slings and arrows with that same raised eyebrow, doesn't he? He's kind of seen it all. He couldn't really say much more about that performance. He was very magnanimous about.
Yeah, he said you just have to accept it when your rival is better, and there's nothing new he said about that, about someone beating you. So there wasn't anything. He couldn't have blamed the referee. He didn't have a go at his own players. He just said we could have used the ball a bit better, but he knew the same as everyone that saw it. It was just the better team won the match. They were outplayed and they couldn't get going. Richard talked about the older players. Modric 47, Kroos 33, Benzema's 35, Carvajal's 31, and they all looked their age tonight. Never got going into the game at all.
Anybody would against that City team this evening. Mind you, Richard, they did manage to keep Haaland scoreless for two legs. We thought, how could they do that? Don't know if it was quite by design this evening, other than Courtois' brilliance, though. Is that?
Yeah, Courtois was excellent. I mean, even there, rushing out to close down the space for him. But he got more opportunities in the box tonight. That one he definitely should have scored, similar to the one against Everton at the weekend, but unfortunately it wasn't Pickford in goal. And then this one is an unbelievable save. He's going back the other way, but he does everything right, Haaland, and he gets the space, he gets up and just can't get it past Courtois. And then as the game went on, the chances kept coming to him, and the one thing about him is he never hides away from it. This is a brilliant move from them, and he just couldn't get it out of his feet quick enough. He never hides away from missing an opportunity. He's always there, willing to take the next one. Give me another chance. And yeah, he's not scored in two, so I'm sure he'll be storing them up for the final.
Keeps going. Yeah, as Dave said in commentary, he's stuck on 52 goals for the season. So the final then, Brian, it's in Istanbul, and it's Manchester City against Inter Milan. The nouveau riche against one of the storied old clubs of Europe, and there'll be lots of talk about that aspect that we touched on this evening as well. How do you see Inter Milan measuring up? We look at the wide players that Inter Milan have, the strong defending that you talked about before the game, and the aggression that they showed in beating AC Milan over the two legs. Have they got something in their arsenal to trouble City?
I think only the defensive side of it. I don't think the attacking thing. I mean, we did a piece on Lautaro Martinez earlier on, but I think he's very inconsistent. I don't think himself And the other attackers, basically, I'd be interested with how it develops. Well, Lukaku might get his place for the final. Zeko is the main man playing the centre position. Lukaku's played very well, and it made a difference when he came on the other day. I just don't think to be good enough around the middle. Kalahanglu, Barella, Mkhitaryan. I don't see them having much possession against what we saw from Manchester City tonight, with Stones coming into midfield with Rodri, the excellence of Gundogan, De Bruyne. I can't see them getting much of the ball in midfield, despite the work rate again that we've shown of them. And it'll be a matter of their defence trying to hang on.
When you see what City did to Real Madrid this evening, the champions of Europe, with all those legends that they have in their team, I mean, is it really hard to make a case for Inter Milan in that final?
It is difficult. It's going to be an unbelievable upset if Inter Milan was to be able to hold out against Man City, because I think, like Brian says, they'll dominate possession, they'll create opportunities, and the way they smother you, so you try and clear the ball like we've seen tonight, they're straight back on top of it. They win all the second balls and they just start again with the pressure, with the build up and with the movement. And I think similar tonight, Inter Milan have a couple of aging players in their team, and they might feel the pace
in the heat of Istanbul in a few weeks' time. Maybe their only hope is if Pep comes up with something crazy, and he's not even doing that anymore in the matches.
Tommy, I mean, look at the defensive stuff now. It's structured, it's solid. Yeah. And if he wants Stones to go back and make it forward, he will.
Heavy favourites. We have to leave it there.